the agenda by adding a item 7A, which is second opinion on Rule 6, which was the topic of our workshop prior to this meeting. And since no action can be taken one way or the other during the workshop, I'd like to add 7A.
What is that, just to present what she presented, or what?
I would like to make a motion at that time, based on what she said and on the report that she presented to us.
Okay. So, Chair, we have a motion on the floor to amend the final agenda to include a 7A, which is the
Second opinion
second
on
opinion
Rule
on the rulemaking.
6.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Is it a second opinion, or is it?
That's what she entitled it.
That's
Second
what-
opinion.
that's
Okay.
That's what
The name of the
Second.
document.
was
name
the
of
title
document.
of it on the workshop agenda.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, I'll call for a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So now we need a motion. You wanna make a motion now?
Oh, I'll approve the final agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So let's go ahead and start with the public comment, and just as a reminder, is that microphone also not working?
The mic's right there, so.
Okay, no, but if they need to come up.
Sideways, so it'll be.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the public comments.
I have two. First is Tom Shaner regarding Rule 6. And he said, that's the one that I sent you, he said, he'll
Okay.
do his best to do it. If he has to stop, I'll just pick up wherever he
And I'm
drops,
just-
because I have.
Just getting over laryngitis, so in case I take a little second longer, I was
All right.
looking for. So, good afternoon, I'm Tom Shaner, Vice President of the Pelican Preserve Community Association. I don't want to waste your time today voicing objections to the efforts to repeal Rule 6, even though I believe it is a fair and equitable solution to the apportioning of gateway-related costs among its residents and businesses. What I would like to ask of you is to immediately postpone any action on the issue of repealing the rule until all of us, the Board of Supervisors included, have a full understanding of what such a repeal might mean. The request includes that of canceling the September 9th public hearing, September 19th, excuse me, as recommended to you in a third-party non-biased legal opinion, which confirmed that the rule was and is absolutely legal. I ask that you immediately cease all actions related to Rule 6 and instead follow the recommended detailed public procedures as outlined in Chapter 170 of the Florida statutes. This would require you to base any changes to Rule 6 on a professional study by the district engineer or a qualified consultant. Not only would all of us have a full understanding of the ramifications of changing Rule 6, we would be ensured of fairness and compliance with legal standards. Please postpone such a hearing until everyone has solid quantifiable information from which they can either support or oppose your efforts. One advocate for changing the rule has rallied troops by stating that Gateway has spent $10 million over the last 5 years to which Pelican Preserve has not contributed. And yet he fails to point out that during the same period of time, the residents of Pelican Preserve spent nearly $12 million maintaining Gateway assets without any financial support from the other residents of Gateway. Because none of us, including you, clearly understand the ramifications of changing Rule 6, does this mean that going forward, Pelican Preserve would contribute 1/3 of the $10 million and that other Gateway residents would now have to pay 2/3 of the $12 million spent in Pelican Preserve? I don't know. It just seems to me that all of us would want to clearly understand the answers to this question before going forward. In summary, if you do nothing else, please postpone any hearing on the matter of repealing Rule 6 until you follow the detailed public procedures in Chapter 170, and that you base any changes on a professional study. Only following this path can we be assured that the informed and non-emotionally driven dialogue between the board and the people you represent. Only then will you be able to assure the community that a fair and equitable assessment methodology has been established. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. The next speaker?
Rod Senior. non-agenda item. 3 minutes, Rod.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi. Fellow residents, this Chapter 6 discussion is my first item.
Rod, just identify yourself, please.
Rod Senior, Gateway Greens.
Thank you.
Thank you. From everything I've heard today, it appears that Chapter 6 was not following the proper guidelines. According to the expert independent attorney, we should have followed Chapter 170 and we didn't. And I'm firmly of the opinion that we need to repeal it first. And hopefully on September the 19th before we move forward. And I'm all in favour of moving forward, Flavia. It also states in the attorney's report that we were the only district that's known that followed actually Chapter 120 when we formulated this Chapter 6. So, you know, as we go, what I thought when I heard the attorney just now is that she did a really poor job in answering Ed's question, particularly the weight of Statute 190.021 number 3. What is the point in having this statute? If it's going to be trumped effectively or guided by or controlled by 170, how do we determine if we violate 190.021.3? Because it appears to me, and I agree with Ed, that it was violated in exempting certain parts of our community from O&M. So the interpretation of 190.021.3 actually was perfectly articulated by our attorney, Tony Pius, on April the 5th, 2007 in the minutes. Everybody should pay an O&M equally. So as you go forward and hopefully repeal and then get into 170 discussions, how are you going to determine, who's going to determine whether 190.021 Section 3 is being violated or not? Not your methodologist. Presumably it's this guy. So it's something that was disappointing to me today, that this independent attorney made light effectively of 190, which is the CDD specific statute. My second thing I want to talk about briefly is the landscaping contract. Please forgive me, Chelsea, if I don't know all the details. I wasn't at the meetings pertaining to landscaping. I've had a contact of mine ask whether they can bid, and I forwarded the information to you. And they were told that it was already awarded. But to what I understand, it was awarded to just Mainscape, and there was only Mainscape left standing at the end. And as opposed to 2 or 3 or more bids. And in my opinion, when you get in, okay, thank you. In my opinion, when you get to a situation where you've only got one bid left, one last man standing, why wouldn't you just roll forward that contract 90 days and reach out to more bidders rather than just accepting one bid for another 3 years?
Thank you.
That's it, thanks.
Thank you, Ron.
Is there anything else that's missing that you just want to paper copy to her and give it to us?
I'm sorry?
Is anything else missing on your items that you need to speak
No,
to?
no,
You wanna just
no, I
leave
was-
it? Okay.
No, thank you.
All right. So anybody online?
No.
All right, local achievements and recognition. Chelsea, do you have anything?
I do not have any.
Okay. So advisory committees and items to report.
I was not able to attend the Parks and Rec meeting.
Neither was I.
Back in time.
Neither
I was still in the air during their meeting, so I really don't know what happened at Parks and Rec.
Do you have a recap?
I don't have a recap from Carrie yet.
Okay, well, on that note, I don't think we needed to be recapping that anymore because we're going to start having to approve the minutes for those meetings.
If it's my understanding, if 2 or more board members attends those subcommittee meetings, those minutes of that board have to come in front of this board because 2 or more of you have met.
Regardless if they've spoken or not. So going
Just emergency
forward,
caution.
yeah, so going forward, even a liaison is unnecessary now, because all of those, all the meetings, subcommittee and regular meetings, will have to be approved by us.
Fine.
Okay? So you don't have nothing to report.
I don't.
Okay, so 7A,
7A. I don't know if this is the proper time to bring this up, but in front of you, you have a thing, starts out, Anthony Piers, et cetera. Hold on, please. You know, nothing ever happens so basically. Okay. The question was asked of me why the CDD has a non-ad valorem tax. Why don't we have a valorem tax, like municipalities, school districts, park districts, etc.?
You
So
mean
I
an
asked
ad-
the,
You mean an ad valorem tax
Ad
versus a non-ad valorem?
correct, correct. So I asked Tony, is it possible for the CDD to have an ad valorem tax as opposed to a non-ad valorem tax? In other words, your property value would be your baseline as to how things are divided. And Tony gave me the statutes, which I've provided to you here, that says, yes, we could have an ad valorem tax, meaning your property value would be the deciding factor. I would like to suggest to the board that we at least look into this while we're looking at all methodologies. Since it is a possibility that we could have it, I would like the board to look into this also, to add the factor of an ad valorem tax and what it would do to the district. And on the last page, I've provided my husband John and my tax bill, because you're going to have something to compare things to. So I provided our personal tax bill as a way of, to help determine what the variances would be if you did it this way or if you did it that way. Because you're going to have something to make a decision.
Question?
So I would like to have this put in the mix with our assessment discussions.
Question on that for Tony.
Yes, sir.
As I understand, this issue came up, God, had to been 15 years ago. And as I recall, what the downside to this was, the killer, was that takes away, like for example, right now, our assessment methodology does not differentiate single-family homes. Okay? So your single-family home, my single-family home, the single-family home that's on 10,000 acres, or 10,000 acres, 10,000 square feet versus the ones over in Hampton Greens that are on 30,000 square feet, their tax, their assessment is going to be based on their property value. Which means we are now going to have the people that live in Summer Wind are going to be paying X for their assessment. And the people that live in Hampton Green are going to be paying 5X, 6X. I don't even want to bring that subject up in the community. We get killed saying that. That allows for disparity, purely based upon value of property. I don't think we want that in Gateway at all. I don't even think we want to talk about that in Gateway. It's very divisive among the people. It's just not fair. It's certainly not fair and equitable. So I would be totally against even having anybody look at it as an idea.
Just a question. What was your thought process? The reason to look at these two, and why would we want to compare the two? Was there a driver?
We have many governmental bodies that do an ad valorem tax, and generally the differentiation is that somebody is going to pay more because their house is worth more, or somebody isn't. and it's a simple differentiation, the value of your property. Whereas if you look at the methodology, and I've read it several times now, we take into impervious and pervious surfaces are a factor. How many miles of things you have are a factor. There's many things that are factors. And I can understand why we have a non-ad valorem tax. You're saying that any particular property has the same access to assets as other ones do. But you have many other governmental bodies that say an ad valorem tax is also fair and equitable to everybody. So if we're going to look at the universe of possibilities, I would like us to also put this in the hopper and say, is it possible or is it not? What are the downs, what are the pros, what are the cons?
I would like to tell him, the question is not that capability, then you have a different value, because what you're basically, Carol, saying is you put all of our costs in one barrel. And then you take and determine the property values of all the people. And you divide that into that, and it's X per square foot, X per square yard. And that's what you get.
I guess just a couple things if I may.
You'll get shot.
One is, to the extent an ad valorem tax is proposed, notice the last line of that talks about it shall be approved by referendum when required by the state constitution. So they may require an election or referendum. And one, number two, I'm not aware of any other districts in the state that have this taxing power. I just quickly searched at the DEO website to see, because you can find out what the revenue generation ability of an entity is or authority. I did not find any that had ad valorem
Do you know of
taxation.
any CDDs in the state of Florida?
No, I could not. I went down the whole list. I tried to do a search. I didn't find any. A couple other aspects of it. Just again, I've not seen any districts utilize this, so I don't know if you could have a blend, assuming for sake of discussion it was successful, if you get a blend of ad valorem and special assessments. But the issue with ad valorem taxes, typically you cannot levy ad valorem taxes on like churches and other 501c3 entities. But you can levy non-ad valorem special assessments as to those entities. So there is a whole mix and match. And again, the ad valorem tax is purely based upon value. You also run into, with the ad valorem tax, the millage cap that's in here, 3 mils. You also have the various exemptions that are out there, homestead, saver homes, all those issues, which do not apply in a non-ad valorem special assessment setting. So you have a couple of columns of, one from here, 2 from there, and then you look at them all, and whatever the benefit is, it's tough to say in the abstract without doing a whole economic analysis, quite frankly.
And the impact, or even preparation, would be a total revamp of our assessment methodology and, yeah.
Well, it's totally different.
Right. So, Carol, what I would ask is to table this as a 2025 item, because I just don't know, even if we were to do diligence, if we could make any changes and it impact our next budget season. I think it's just too big of a lift, in my
Well,
opinion.
if we're gonna look at redoing our methodology, I think we should at least consider this. I'm not saying that we go with this. I'm not advocating for it.
So an initial
I'm
review
just
is what you're
saying-
asking for?
Just an initial review. What are the upsides? What are the downsides? So that we have that information to give to everybody.
Who would do that?
Russ?
Russ?
Yeah, and one other aspect of it also is that Lee County, for example, and other local government bodies that have the ad valorem taxing ability, they also levy non-ad valorem special assessments. Easiest example is Lee County's garbage bill. It's a non-ad valorem special assessment that shows up on your tax bill. And Lee County also levies an ad valorem tax. So you have a number of entities that use 2 types of funding sources.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna dig into this issue again, let's look at everything at one time. And either put it to bed or go forward.
Can you just reach out to Russ and see what level of effort?
Russ and Steve.
Yeah, Russ and Stephen.
What is it you're trying to ask of them? Are you trying to
That-
ask?
That's what I'm confused, like, are you wanna make a motion for us to add this as an option in addition, to the report that he's gonna provide by January month?
I think the first step is just
We don't know
almost
enough yet.
a validity exercise. On the surface is, what's the pros and cons
Yeah, we don't know.
in our environment, to even consider.
Well, that's what are you trying to get, if you want to look into this, what are you looking into? What are you expecting to come out of this preliminary review? That's what I'm trying to understand, because I have to convey that to those folks.
Because there's clearly going to be benefits to some and not to others. So
Yeah.
how do you determine, an
Okay,
an
so-
increase in your environment could be great, but it's completely subjective.
What might
So
be an
I
important-
guess what you wanted to, I would want to say is, okay, Carol Pankow, if you go with a non-ad valorem tax, you're gonna be paying X amount of dollars next year. If you go with an ad valorem tax, your tax bill is gonna be Y number of dollars.
Or maybe, again, board ultimate decision maker, but maybe from a more 50,000 foot level initially, if you take all the taxable values in the district and apply a hypothetical millage to it, what would you generate as far as in revenues versus what is generated now using the non-ad valorem special assessments? That might be one, and once again, that's a huge.
But the bottom line is, if you do that, and that would be what you would have to do. But the bottom line is that the age-old deal that we've had at Gateway is basically everybody was equal. Just went out the window. Now, if you live in a smaller house, you're gonna pay a smaller tax, whether you have 5 kids, 2 kids, 1 kid, no kids. If you live in a big house, you're gonna pay a lot more. And I think bringing that up, I just don't think we have enough to do it, but I think the bigger problem is, why do we want to go down the road and make anything any more divisive than we already have?
So that would be the answer to your question. So when we come to hopefully a public hearing at some future time, everybody will come there with knowledge of the total realm of possibilities.
I mean, my initial reaction is, in our environment, that doesn't feel fair and equitable. To Ed's point, he might be paying more based on his property value than I am, and I've got 4 kids. That's leveraging amenities on the trip generations on the roads, because we've got 5 cars. It might be opening up a different can of worms. And I'm trying to limit the amount of can of worms we're opening these days. It's not that it's not valid. I just don't know if the timing is right in my opinion. But we can. I don't even know the effort.
If you're gonna do
Well,
if you're gonna do
obviously,
anything,
there
throw-
are plenty
throw-
of government bodies who feel that this is a fair and equitable way of doing
Yeah,
things.
no, I'm not.
So, and they have schools and park districts and all this sort of special things too, where one household uses them and another household doesn't. So I don't know that you would say that this is not a fair and equitable method. It's obviously been recognized by many government bodies as being a fair and equitable method. I don't know if it's for us.
Yeah.
That's my difference. And so I would just suggest that we look into it. See if it is or not.
Would you like me?
I'm opposed to it, but I would go along
Do you
with
wanna
you,
make a
would do something.
motion to it? Is that what you need? Because she would need to make a motion first to give you direction, right? So
I need something.
That's fine.
So
Okay,
here's my 2 cents. We got a lot on our plate right now, like a lot with staff. We're wrapping up year end, starting new, but I can have a conversation with Russ and Steven just to figure out what it would entail.
Why don't you do that first? Because
That'd be
I don't think I
smart.
can get behind it today, because we got enough on Russ's plate. That means we might jeopardize not even having the information that we need in a much larger conversation by January. That's not
I can have that conversation.
Okay,
That's a
I
good
would
compromise.
appreciate it
That's
if
a
you
good
could
compromise.
have that conversation. And then I do move that in light of the report from Maggie Mooney and having received her advice that we requested, that I would like to table the public hearing on the 19th until such time as we have all the information gathered to be able to accurately give answers to the people that are there at the public hearing.
So that's your motion.
Correct.
Do we have a motion on the floor? Do we have a second? Okay, motion fails for no second. Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve minutes from the meetings A, B, and C.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda items.
Pool A,
You want to pull A?
please.
Anything to pull?
No.
Alright. So let's, I'll make a motion to approve consent items 9B, C, D, and E.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A.
Hey, I think we're getting the cart in front of the horse, way in front of the horse on A. We got a contract for about $350,000. We don't even, they're talking about stuff that I don't even think we're ready to talk. What I'd like to see, and I have no problem with the contract value. The dollars look reasonable. The problem is that we're skipping steps. What I think we need to do is, we go ahead and approve the contract, but as far as giving a notice to proceed, I would like to have them come back with a preliminary engineering report that, one, defines for all of us exactly what the scope of our project is. I don't know, I've been here for 30-some years, and I'm not sure that I'm totally up to speed on our 37-year-old irrigation system, where it all goes, how it works, and all that stuff. But more importantly, what I'd like to see is them to come back, show us what we've got, show us what we need to fix and replace, and then show us what their vision is for options, single or double, triple, whatever, of how they're going to propose to do it. I don't want them going out and coming back in here with a set of plans and specs for a $2 million project using some specification for a piece of equipment would be you use in your backyard. We don't want that. We can't afford that. We need a much more sophisticated system. I just want to make sure that they know what we're talking about. So my motion would be to go on ahead and I would approve the contract and the tax authorization, but they only have a notice to proceed to prepare a preliminary engineering report, come back to us with what their recommendations of what they have found and what they're recommending to design.
So, and you're suggesting that that be interlineated into the task authorization. I think that's important to put it in
Well,
writing.
Tony, the way it's got it, as I recall, it had a components A and B that could be, if you can pull that up, Laura. Go to the keep going.
I'm trying.
There was a deal where it has a breakdown of the various tasks in kind of a chronological order. Here you go. I think that staff coordination and meetings is throughout the contract, that's scattered out. Site analysis and inventory services, to me, that would be preliminary work that you would have to do. I don't know that anybody that could probably avoided that $31,000, with the exception of maybe Mainscape, because they have the history in the background. These guys don't. System planning services, $26,000. My deal would be to tell them you've got a task proceed to do 2 and 3 with 1 as necessary. So what are those? So those 3 total would be 57, 81,000.
What's the system design services?
That's doing the plans and specs,
Which is what we want to see, right?
after we see what they're going to propose to build.
Okay.
I want to see what they're proposing to build.
If I could chime in real quick. So James McCord is here with RWA, if you want to ask specific questions, but we went for probably 6 weeks round and round with this scope, and the mains, we are not touching the mains for the irrigation system. This would be all of the laterals and the heads. Now, in our initial conversation, James, being the landscape architect, that he is, said, hey, we kind of need to look at your existing system. I will be frank, I said, I don't need to know, other than mains, and we need to know pressure and all of that, I don't need to know the existing system, because we know it is not a good system. We know it is not working.
I understand
So,
that. What I want to see is, I want to see the mains, I want to see a preliminary engineering report. I don't want to jump out of the plane and find out I don't have a parachute. I want to find out exactly what are you planning on building, what is the scope of what you're planning on building, what is the system you're planning on using? Are you using baseline, are you using Hunter, are you using Rainbird? What are you using? Because some of these are crap. Other ones are very good. So I just want to, I don't want to approve a $334,000 contract and going into it blind.
No,
I have no idea what we're proposing.
just like all of our Tetra Tech design projects, the 60, 90, 100% design would come back to you. If you're asking for
No,
a 30.
no. You're getting apples and apples. That's what I was afraid of. Tetra Tech doesn't go to 630, 60, 90, except on design. What did they do first? They did a facility plan. That's what I'm asking for here. I want the equivalent of what Tetra Tech does.
They don't do a facilities plan on every single thing.
Yes, you do. You do a facility plan on every project we do.
Tetra Tech has not done a facilities plan on every
On
project.
all of our major projects, you always have to do a facility plan. It's required by SRF.
But we don't.
Let's not lose
funded
sight,
SRF.
let's not lose sight.
The
I
issue is
agree.
I want to see a preliminary before I approve $334,000 contract in the blank, not knowing what we're
So
designing.
what is it exactly you would be asking of RWA then?
I don't, hopefully I don't have to tell them how to do a preliminary engineering report. If we have to tell them how to do a preliminary engineering report, we got the wrong firm.
Well, what do you want to
It's-
include it? I think that's the question.
I would like to see what we have, see a layout, a preliminary plan of what we've got, site plan, what we're doing. I agree with you, I totally agree, because we did it over at Gaywood Greens. You can do and work with the existing mains. Now, you might have to do a little bit of changing around maybe on your meters, because you can't get so much water to a certain area. But then, how are we handling the water and getting, because we've got a linear system here.
And how much you gonna spend?
Well, I would take this, I'm going to guess, 31,000, 26,000, which would be 57,000, 57,000, and 15% of the 2,400 be another 4,000, say $65,000. Give them a notice to proceed.
Not to exceed
not to exceed-
70,000.
Not to exceed 70,000, that's fine. To come back to us with a preliminary plan that tells us what they're going to decide.
Yeah, and what I would add here is, I think the size and scope of this project, the visibility of this project, the fact that we probably all get called,
Oh, irrigation.
All
what
the
is it?
time.
irrigation,
All the
why
time.
is there a water fountain on the road? So this is one item that has a lot of visibility to it. So I agree with Ed, I'd like to know what the plan is. I don't care so much about what is our existing layout. If we're saying that we are not reusing any of the existing, other than the mains, we're not planning to reuse any of the existing pipings or lane. But I would like to know what our philosophy is in the new system, and an assessment of what our current system like. There is excessive waste. There is spray on the roadway. There's not adequate blow-up. The system's outdated. I'd like to know an assessment of what current state is.
You
Just
just
prove
said
it.
it, and now you want
Well,
to, that's exactly the problem.
Look, what I'd like to have is that we're spending $334,000, or we're estimating $334,000 of soft costs to do X.
Yeah, but
What's
the only
X?
thing I'm saying
What
is,
is that?
what I don't need is, I don't need you to tell me where all the sprinkler heads are today.
No.
Don't care about
okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't care about that.
We know,
Yeah.
We're talking about where the sprinkler heads will be.
Which
They'll
is
be
something,
between
you
A
would be
and
doing
B.
this anyway,
Yeah.
right? We just need you to come back, because we need to be knowledgeable about what the problems are, what our philosophy
What's
is moving
it gonna cost?
forward, what systems we're gonna use, and what it's gonna look like.
So let me explain the process. Right, we put out an RFQ to get qualifying landscape architect firms. You guys awarded it to RWA. We're working through this task authorization for this specific project. Have we decided an irrigation system? No. Does James know? multiple different vendors that we want to consider? Yes, because he's gonna have to write the scope for the procurement of said system and installation of said system. Now, I'm gonna turn and ask James, are you comfortable in this current scope that you can provide what Mr. Tinkle is asking for as preliminary, over the project?
Okay. James McCord, RWA for the record. In this task authorization, which we worked numerous weeks on, each little section has a deliverable. So if you read, like, you're asking, what you're asking for is pretty much almost in this. Because for like task number 2, which is the site analysis inventory. So after we do our site analysis of inventory, we list everything that we're doing for them, and then it lists what we're providing to the district. Consultant will provide the district the summary of findings, recommendations, and all the digitized files, the GPS and everything. So we're going to put together a summary of everything we find once we do that task, hand it to them. It's going to talk about the issues out there, the things that we've seen, kind of, and not, we're not locating everything. Yeah. So I'm saying, I think what you're asking for is already in this, already in here.
I don't want an open-ended deal that we take off on a $334,000 contract of not knowing, one, what's the cost of what we're going to build, but more importantly, what is it that you're recommending that you design and we build? And I think that between 1, 2, and 3, I'm guessing that your scope of services produces.
It covers exactly what
I
you're
think
asking.
what we're missing here, if you're saying that what we're talking about is inherent in these task numbers, I think what we're missing is just some milestones. So we have a milestone after 3. So, you know, in order to proceed to 4, you need to have board approval to move forward.
Totally.
Yeah. So maybe Chelsea, if you can just go through and say, is there 2, you know,
so just
two milestones, 3 milestones, just to make sure we're aware of what's happening.
Just give a limited NTP.
Does that make sense? Is that a good happy medium?
Yes. So do you feel that those 1 through whatever it was you just said, would that get you to like a 30%? So we can just add a 30% and then have the 30% deliverable?
Yes, ma'am. After task 3, we're going to actually provide you with a conceptual irrigation map of what we're anticipating needs to be done.
Anytime there's a deliverable, it'll come in front of you.
Yeah, it's almost like a 30%.
We just didn't put the
Let's just do that.
We can add the 30% to the.
And then we can approve this in its entirety, and we don't need to split it up with a not to exceed.
After you get past that point, the rest of it's down.
Yeah, okay.
Because you've already got the scope, you know what you're building, you know what the estimated construction cost is, you know the type of system you're going to build. I don't have any problem after you get past.
So I'll make a motion to approve task authorization 2024-01 with RWA for the design, construction management, construction engineering inspection services in the not to exceed amount of $334,850, and authorize the district manager to take appropriate actions.
I'll second that motion.
With the deliverables.
With the addition of the milestones.
And I second that motion. Let's call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate it. Look forward to working with you and getting you a little bit off your back.
Yeah, just keep the water off the road.
Will do. Thank you, guys.
All right.
So, district engineer?
So the next task authorization, Tim Bever, Stephen or Tim? Anyway, the next task authorization is for 25,000 linear feet of the CCTVing of our sewer system. So Tetra Tech to draft the RFP and assist us through that process.
Discussion?
What?
Thing I saw in that was that, I don't know where he came up, or where somebody came up with the idea of, where does it say that we are to do, is it 25% per year?
No, it's like every 5 years.
25% every 5 years? Okay. Because I thought South Florida's requirement on something else was storm. I thought that was 10% every year, such that at the end of 10 years, you've done the whole thing. It really doesn't make any difference.
We're compliant with what is proposed.
Okay. The only thing that I was getting into is that he didn't get into, and this gets into the details. We need to really be looking at where we're doing this, we're going out and doing sewers that we just put in 10 years ago, ain't a priority. We need to be hitting those sewers that we've never looked at for 35 years.
That's the whole system.
Today we opened one up over at Gateway, and it was horrible, just horrible. So
Yeah.
we need to get in and get this started. They're preparing the RFQ correctly,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And-
RFP, yes.
RFP, and they're putting in one that corrects the problems we had on the one we mixed at the beginning. We're getting the front-end documents taken care of.
Yeah, they're doing it all.
Are they working with you on that?
I'm not sure if I've seen them lately.
Who's putting together the front-end documents? We
Um,
got 39 pages of superfluous bull that needs to be shrunk down so that we can get good
well, we're
bids.
still,
I think that's what
Who's doing
Chelsea
that?
and Tony are
Yeah, we're
working on.
working on that, and one of the issues is that about 15 pages are forms that need to be in every one, like affidavits and forms. We're trying to make it easier to follow.
I'm just saying, there's somebody doing that task.
yeah, Tony, you all directed Tony to work on that, to
We
consolidate.
work with Chelsea,
Pare
and
it down.
and we've done that, I've worked with Randy and some others to do that.
But these are the non-engineering
Correct.
documents.
The
These are the general conditions.
The
Correct.
district will
What you-
provide the front-end documents.
Correct, what we're doing, for example, is opposed to having the insurance repeated in the document, contractor agreement itself, and separately, just, here's the insurance requirements.
Yep.
Payment requirements are a separate document, and just cross-referencing them.
How are you handling details that we get burned on every time? We know that a lot of this can be treated as maintenance, where we'll go in and clean a sewer, jet it, but then we'll want to do a repair. And that goes over to the construction side.
So I can answer that. So in talking with Tetra Tech, what they will be doing is they will be doing the CCTV and videoing of all the sewers. Tetra Tech will review all of the videos as notated by the contractor, any places that need to be repaired. Tetra Tech will review those and put together a pretty packet at the end of all of the repairs that we need to be done, which will be bid out as a separate
So you're
standalone
going to
item.
go in and out.
Yeah,
Okay. That's one way of doing it, but
It's a
uh,
clean-
it's costly,
I think
it's
it's-
costly, but it
I think
works.
it's a cleaner
it's
way
more
to do it.
costly, but at least you
No,
can have eyes on it.
no pun intended.
Yeah, that's the plan.
It's
And
what?
I said it's a cleaner way, no pun intended, because Chelsea.
similar
This
concept
is
will
a
be taken,
sanitary sewer thing.
Yeah, I know.
similar concept will be taken with stormwater,
Okay.
which
Okay.
you will see at your next
Okay,
meeting.
no problem. We need a motion to approve?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second by Doug, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, admin items, and you want to take it over?
Yep.
You go on.
Randy, is Randy? on?
He was, he's not.
I don't-
He's right here. He's
Scott.
He's muted.
Randy, is Scott coming in person?
Scott's here.
Scott Corralo, that's
Oh.
Tyler.
No.
Tetra Tech?
Can we,
No.
pass over 11A and we'll come back to it?
Okay.
We'll come back to it. 11B, if you're okay with jumping to that?
Only question I had on that was, as I read that, you scratch my back, and we'll scratch yours. So we're waiving our fee, and if we ever have to use their and back feed to us, they waive their fee.
It could go either way. If you charge them, just anticipate them to charge us a connection fee, and if it ever turns reverse, I would hope that they would waive their connection fee if you chose to waive ours.
And the county already waived theirs.
Okay.
Correct.
I just want to make sure, we don't waive ours, then we go over and we run the water the other way.
I
They hit
do.
us with a fee.
There is-
That ain't gonna get it.
Scott Towler from FGUA is on the call. Scott, I don't know if you want to talk to that item?
Sure. Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate it. Thanks to your board. Yes, the intent is, we're close to completing the interconnection, and our staff recommendation to our board is that we're asking for your board to waive that connection fee. And likewise, we would ask that our board would be supportive to waive the fee in any future use of that interconnection.
I think the appropriate motion to cover it, though, would be to waive the connection fee contingent upon FGUA agreeing to waive its connection fee in the future, if applicable.
Yep, that would be
Is
good.
that your motion, Ed?
That's my motion.
All right, so I'll second that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Scott, I'll be in touch.
Thank you. And then let me know, because we have a board meeting later this month, and we can get our board to approve whatever you need. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate your cooperation. Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Have a good night. All All right, next item is the Lennar has, or WCI/Lennar has requested to reduce the Arborwood Phase 3 bond for only the utilities being water and sewer.
And irrigation.
And irrigation, nothing stormwater related. And I don't know, Stephen, if you want to touch on how long those improvements have been completed, but because they're tied into the overarching bond with the lake issues that we have and the stormwater issues that we still pending, I chose to hold off on it prior to, but now we're kind of at the point where maintenance is lacking inside the lift station, and we want to make sure that that asset is still continues to be taken care of.
All of our punch list items that we had a slew of them before. All of them, I don't want to even think of this being Santa Luz 2.
Yeah.
Santa Luz 2 again. We can't handle that. Just want to make sure that every one of the punch list items and every one of the items that are critical, we had issues on drainage, we had issues on pump stations, we had issues on cleanouts, we had issues on all this stuff. All of those are resolved, is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll move to.
This is.
And
Sorry, I heard some background noise, but this is Stephen Agapi with Tetra Tech, District Engineer. All of the punch list items have been complete for over a year now. There's even been a couple, small items that they had to address with the leaking lift station in between when they were, accepted originally or punched out originally until now, which has been addressed. And I believe Bill has been operating it with his staff for some time now. So they're should be ready to go.
Contingent upon
reviewing final documents like bill of sale and the 1-year warranty from acceptance of the bill of sale.
yes,
Yep, and this is Alex at Lennar. We've sent those documents.
that would be Alex Heinball, who just spoke, who is a representative of Lennar.
I already moved to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Alex, I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Can we jump back to 11A?
Yes.
So, if you can go to 11A. Scott is not going to be here, but I just want to briefly go over these. You guys wanted to review the logos prior to the final presentation, so I'd just like to go through these with you and just kind of get your feedback so I can relay which selection you choose for the logo, so you can come back at your next board meeting. Well, which will have probably the October meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear to me. I think the option D, this one, you go to the next slide with the middle color variation, but we could also use the other one if we ever needed multiple colors. To me, this is just cleaner.
Yeah.
It has an identity. I still don't like what they did with the gateway arch. It just looks too caricature to me.
Did they change it?
Not the way, I mean, they just thickened it up a to bit, but
But it's not what.
Well, they made it look more tree.
yeah, it looks more
Which is what
oakish.
you wanted them to
Yes,
do.
it is, but it's still like, to me, I think the one before the D just looks like more of a high-end, it's just a better logo.
Okay, so we like the
I like D, that would be my choice.
okay.
Well, I like G, and I like the third one, all the way at the end.
Which one, Carol?
This
G,
one?
G on,
the one at the end,
This one?
that's.
yes, with the gold letters. I think that's a nice contrast. I don't know why you want the green and the blue and the gold and the whatever. There's 4 colors in the one before.
No, you meant the middle one, right?
No,
Yeah,
the one on the right, the last one.
Doug
That's
said this one.
That's the one that I would recommend. It's
Because that matches the fountain, is that why?
yeah, well,
It kinda
it's
does.
that, and it's just, there's some color variation there, but it's not as bold as the original, because I thought it was too much
It's still
contrast.
gonna be 4 different colors.
I
It
prefer
could be
multiple
solid blue.
colors.
I mean, if you want to do single colors, it could be a solid blue, but
So my 2 cents of the multiple colors is we have an admin building, you have different parks amenities,
Oh, so you can pick different colors for different things, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's my 2 cents.
Well,
The way I
you
would,
asked me which one I liked, and I liked
And I
the one
agree with
over at
Carol.
the very end.
I agree
To
with
me,
Carol.
it's,
Pick one,
That
Flavia.
says.
No, because it's not
gateway.
gonna help, because I always, like
Well-
this, honestly, I said it at the last meeting, the meeting before, and the meeting before that. This is something that does not touch my heart, like artistic, colored, none of this, I cannot. So I said I'll go with the majority, but I know I don't like that tree. I don't like,
so to me,
I don't like
this is
both.
Gateway's identity. Our process is to get it down to 2 or maybe even 3 options.
I'll give my vote to Tony.
And then we should put it out to the community, I think.
My wife makes the color decisions by
Oh,
now.
I like that.
Because, I mean,
I do too.
you know,
Okay,
the fact
so-
that already we're 50-50 on this board and it's 4 people.
Well, the other thing, and Carol, I think it's something what Carol was saying, is what would be so difficult? I don't know that we have any trees that are adjoined out there. We got any, what, diversity in our trees out here? I don't think so. Why can't we have the trees come up and leave the?
Well, that's what I
space?
wanted. What I was
That's
looking
why I
for is
understand why they can't do it. Then we have the combination of what looks like a tree and we have an arch.
yeah, what
I
I
like
was
that.
trying to get them to do is to mimic our canopy, which is 2 trees that have a slight overlap that create the arch.
Or
Here, like the
or
branches
just
are,
look like it.
branches are joined. I think,
Yeah, that's
Well,
That's
you
what I
asked
thought.
them to
Maybe
make
that's
it look more like a tree, so they did.
no, but I even gave an
They made
example.
they made a bush here, that's all they did. No, they didn't.
They kept the arch.
I'd
and
like
then
to take
just-
that last one and separate the trees with an airspace
Okay,
and.
so maybe
That'd be happy.
we don't want it to look like broccoli.
Yeah.
And more like a tree.
And you guys are saying you want, like, where's this gateway, you want that to be a gold color, is that what I was hearing?
Now, I could see a color differential on that, that would be,
But what color, I mean, it's important to pin down the color variation. So right now, our
Is
color
there
palette would be green and gold, which is basically what we have today.
So, what we can do, here's what I would suggest, since it sounds like you guys are kind of split, we'll stick with the original of D in that color palette. And
No,
then-
no,
No?
no,
They're separate.
my recommendation would be the middle one.
Yeah.
And then as you're doing your design, you have secondary.
and,
Okay.
and I would do the same thing with G, that same color deal, but do a separation of the tree.
Okay, we did get the colors swapped from, the fountain. They tried to do it, it didn't look good.
I don't care about matching the fountain. I mean, the fountain is a blue, so if we use any type of variation of blue or green, it's within the wheel.
Okay. So D2, right? And then also make
G3.
separating
G-
and not
G
having,
separating.
not having
Yeah, make
the,
it look like a tree, not broccoli.
the third one.
Well,
Yes.
and
With
the
a
reason you
different
guys,
color of the
I
letter.
just wanna make sure we're clear, the reason you like the third one is because the tree is lighter, or you just like the color of the gateway? Because, the middle and the third are
That I don't.
it's
Two
the same.
trees are green, so
Yeah.
I don't,
I'd stay with the green on the
I'd
tree.
stay with the
Separate
green.
the tree and make the logo blue.
but I mean, I don't think the word gateway should be in that
Gold color.
browny reddy
I don't like that
thing.
color.
What about the original color of the words
And the
gateway?
middle one is too close to the green of the tree, so it's kind of, you know, I just think that gold adds a little bit of difference.
Is that gold or gray?
I don't know what color that is out there.
Pewter.
It's a darker gold.
No.
Maybe the pewter, I would probably lean more
It's
towards
hard
pewter.
Pewter?
making a decision on this type of deal. You almost need to see a painting.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at, I mean, most of the trees they look for logos, they look like broccoli, they look like they got struck by lightning.
Yeah.
So it's like the choices are really,
If
it is struck by lightning
If it
or
was me-
broccoli, I don't
If it was
know.
me, I'd go on Gateway Boulevard and I would take a picture of the canopy.
And then you can
Mimic.
digitize
Like
it.
this?
You can digitize
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Well,
Copy.
that's
No.
broccoli.
No, just literally,
just copy.
it's a canopy they're trying to build, but the whole reason behind this is the archway. They were building off the arch. That's the gateway is an arch.
Don't exaggerate it. This is.
No, but I'm saying
exactly-
that was their justification on why it was an arch as opposed to a canopy. And we're saying we want a canopy, we don't want an arch necessarily.
I agree.
You know,
Okay, if we get those two, and then I agree with Doug, I think we need to get this out on the street. If we four can you imagine 5,000?
How is this?
I think the first question you're gonna get is, what the hell are you doing this for? You've got bigger problems.
Okay,
Let's go.
so D2, G3, tweaking of the color of the word gateway, separating the trees to make them independent.
There you go.
Surveying community.
To be continued.
Okay,
All right, next,
all right.
legal services contract.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion for legal services contract. I'll second the motion.
I didn't know that Tony sat here for a flat rate of $400. I think that's pretty good, actually.
Say it again.
I didn't know that Tony sits here for a flat rate of $400. So I think that's pretty good.
I think there's meat on that bone. I'm just kidding.
We have a motion and second. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
3-1.
Congratulations, Tony. You're
Thank
stuck with us for another
Thank
3
you.
years,
Thank you.
Correction
unless you choose otherwise. They're 8-day out, I think.
What's up?
There's a 30-day out in that contract that we have, 60-day out, okay.
correction of assessment role.
All right, Stephen Bloom has ventured his way over from the
I'm
other
gonna finish
coast.
this whole back here.
And I get
It
to
doesn't
sit in a
really
nice
matter.
chair, so.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, you have to use your outside voice, because this will help for what we're recording here, but the people online are listening through the microphone way over here on the table, because
Okay, well, I'll be loud.
You're gonna sit
You
in
have
that
a
chair,
good-
you
you have a
gotta
good
eat a pound
outside
of
voice.
chocolate, because that's what Bob always
He
does.
snacks
Oh,
and
does
crinkles
he?
and,
yeah,
Yeah,
clicks his
the
pen
noise.
a lot, and
we miss him.
it's quiet.
So for the record, Stephen Bloom, Infomark. So this particular agenda item is to make a correction to the assessment role. It's only for Pelican Preserve, doesn't affect anything else. So
Yeah.
so what happened is there's some additional formulas within the budget file that attaches to the assessment tabs, and there was a disconnect between two departments within Pelican Preserve. These are the two newer departments. So this kind of fixes that, so
Excuse me, kind of or does?
it fixes it, thank you.
Thank you.
It fixes that, and the split that we're talking about is to take those two departments and put them between inside gate parcels versus outside gate. That was the piece that was not done in the assessment role. So this corrects that. The bottom line, the financial impact is about 208,000 from the gross line. It's 199,000 after the discounts are taken into effect, which is about 4%. And so, kind of the recommendation here is to use cash reserves to cover that difference. And the other point I'll just make is if you look at your budget for Pelican Preserve, very conservative with interest income, extremely conservative. We'll make up most of this, if not all of it, through interest during the year.
Stephen, when in the process was this mistake made?
Well, I mean, technically the whole process. From my approach, from my understanding, using the file, there is an additional set of formulas that has to be done in order for it to connect with Russ's. So we did not do those formulas for these new departments.
Did you do it the year before?
No. But these are newer departments. It's not like they've been going on for 5-10 years. This is the brand new ones. After the HOA agreement ended, these departments were added. So the HOA agreement already had it set up to be inside and outside. The assumption was that the assessment worksheets would grab that information and do it through those tabs. It did not. So when we did our final reviews and discussions, it's like, well, why isn't this inside and outside stuff being split out like it normally would be? And so that's where we kind of backtracked to those formulas. So here's in terms of the future.
I guess my question is, have you made this mistake in the past?
I don't believe so, but I did not look past because they were so new, these departments. I mean, like if you look at the financials, there's no information even in these departments in 2023. It was all being split through the HOA agreement.
Right.
So I don't believe so, but I'd have to go back and check. And really the big picture here is that the entire file for the assessment stuff have to be retooled because of all this new stuff that's occurring. These files do not really work the same way that they're intended. Quite a bit has to be redone. It doesn't include any of the debt service and the rolls. Everything has to be done a lot more manual. This is something Russ knows, and I've talked to him about it. This is a small part of that in terms of making sure that everything connects properly.
So, moving forward then, does this affect our discussions about the assessment methodology?
Well, yes. I mean, technically, when you're doing that methodology, everything's going to be on the table. You know, all the way through is going to have to be from the assessment methodology. And then, but this file, I don't think you've seen it. I know Ed has seen the file. Russ does a really good job with it, but it's very complex.
It's about
Immensely
40
complex.
tabs.
And
of
every
stuff.
time we add new stuff to it, it becomes less and less controllable. So it has to be retooled. So as a part of that, everything will be kind of looked at again. But I think the short answer is if you're looking at the entire methodology, this will have to be a part of it. Everything that gets done through that methodology is then going to have to be translated into a new set of tabs and files. And what we're going to ask Russ to do is to make it in such a way so that you're not
I can read it.
Exactly.
Yep.
All of us can read it. It's very complicated. And what happens is the more complicated it is, these kind of smaller issues start to occur because it's so hard to connect everything to all these tabs.
What makes it really complicated is you've got that inside-outside. That really makes it complicated. Because you've got to go back and take, whereas right now in Gateway, where if we have a park admin cost, it goes in park admin. If it's a road cost, it goes in road. Yours, you don't have that. You just got admin and ponds. So you're basically have a hodgepodge account
But
that,
we also have
that needs to be
landscaping,
split
we
out.
also have safety and security now.
And those are the
Yeah.
two we're talking about
And that's
here.
the two we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Right, and the percentages of that split of the inside and outside the gate, that was all part of the assessment methodology when we did that in 2020. So that's where those percentages came from. It's not like we just randomly applied something to it. We used the calculations that Russ had for the assessment methodology for the benefit for the people inside and outside the gate to apply to those
Which
costs.
will be on the table as
Yes,
part of updating the new
to be
assessment
reviewed.
methodology.
Yeah, but we didn't just like randomly assign them, that we used the percentages that were.
Well, the
that were
system
done
was
in the
there.
assessment
Yeah.
methodology.
We just
Correct.
didn't do it.
Correct, it just wasn't applied. The groundwork was laid, it's just that the transfer of the formulas didn't happen.
So ultimately, the staff recommendation is to utilize the reserve account, but your alternative option on the table is to actually assess, and it comes out to be about $75 per household. And I sent that to you separately, provided by Stephen Bloom, via email. But we need to make a decision on this today as part of this, which I'm sure Tony.
There's two actions actually that need to be taken. One is, as outlined in the executive summary, it mentions that the resolution was adopted by the board, and the board adopted the assessment resolution, levying the assessments and adopting the assessment roll. It gave the staff the authority to make any amendments to the roll prior to certification to the Lee County tax collector. Then the cited statute 197.3632 provides alterations to the roll may be made by the chair or his or her designee up to 10 days before certification. And the statute also says it is the responsibility of the local governing board that such roll be free of errors or omissions. So it's important that there be two actions. One would be making decisions, Chelsea mentioned the staff recommendation as to the, you're gonna have to adopt a revised budget, make some amendments to the budget by fund, and Laura can give you those numbers, or Chelsea or Stephen can, and the narrative as to what that entails. And secondly is to confirm.
Okay, I win. I move what you
Well,
just said.
you know, if I can make them both first.
Two, yeah.
Two, then
I know.
it'll be done separately. And the second one would be to, ratify
Well,
the,
before you get any further, Tony.
their errors and omissions
She already-
in the final assessment call. Now, I'm trying to say those are the two actions separately.
Okay, so the first action is to determine if you want to use the reserves or to assess.
Oh, I think we should use reserves.
That's the
Um,
motion.
Pelican has a,
You can't talk long enough to explain the other option.
Just, yeah.
I can tell you right now.
I'll make.
no, they're, the residents of Pelican are going to be hit really hard. this next year because of the other boards' actions. And so if we can take this out of reserve and at least keep ours low, our part low, it'll be much better for the residents of Pelican.
Chelsea, can you scroll up to
You're not
the,
talking about, okay, it's an outside
I
issue.
gotta find my mouse, hang on.
Correct.
Okay, I don't want
This?
to, but, okay.
what I would suggest is that the motion be to, as to the budget, approve the staff recommendation, adopt the resolution 2024-25. Sections 2 and Section 3, Section 3 specifically reads that for the FY 2024-25 Pelican Reserve Overdue Operating Fund, the special assessment budget has been reduced by $207,998 from $3,437,317 to $3,229,320. In addition, the special assessment discounts budget has been reduced by $8,320 from $137,493 to $129,171. And they reduced the operating revenues by $199,678. So I would suggest that the resolution, the motion be to approve the budget corrections recommended by staff and adopt the resolution 2024-25.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you. We'll get that assessment roll to,
I got an extension to tomorrow. to get it in.
And secondly, I think,
Yesterday.
I think the board needs to ratify and confirm the correction of errors made by the staff and the chair and utilizing the statutory provision in the resolution.
So I move that.
And I'll second that motion. Call for vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And then you have direction to get it out of reserve.
yep.
And will you notify PPAC at their next meeting?
I will, yeah, I'll give them an update.
That the board voted to take it out of reserve?
Yep. I will be sure to let them know.
The chair was notified of this, so. All right,
And she agreed with that?
had some questions, said that we could set a meeting to clarify and hadn't heard back. I think she's out of town.
So now we're just informative, what
Yes.
they're doing.
Yeah, I'll let them know what you guys did.
This is time sensitive.
Yeah, it's very,
All right.
wait.
I just have a couple things on district manager items, just a couple updates. Staff went through yesterday punch list items on the pilot project for the meter boxes. Vendor has quite a laundry list of punch lists, so Ed, you'll probably be seeing them back in Gateway Greens, clearing up some of those items. FPL is moving along down Griffin. Next week, they're moving into Gateway Greens. We walked that yesterday. They're moving along. I did just receive the Fairway Lakes Office Park version of it, so I'll be bringing that in front of you guys in the next 2 meetings or so.
I would suggest you send to the whole board what you sent to me, so that everybody gets a flavor of the 3 sets of plans.
Oh, okay.
So that everybody sees the plans for this project.
Yep.
Because it is an immense project.
And I am very pleased with the contractor that FPL selected for this and their subs. They have been more than cooperative and very cautious and just very, very good experience so far, knock on wood. You'll notice the farmer's market advertisement went out October 4th, starting, that's a Friday, 9 to 1, I believe is the farmer's market. It'll be right over here through April. So we are super excited to bring that to the Gateway community.
In this parking lot.
Yep. Across the way. And then we are wrapping up the year end. We've got staff reviews we're working through, closing out. Laura's working through the financial side and for Mark on closing out year end. So we've got a lot of stuff going on this month. I did just send an email out to all of you today about Lorna Kitty. She'll be contacting you. I got your note back. I relayed that to her before the strategic planning session next month. She'll be contacting you individually just to talk and kind of get up to speed. We have a couple bids out right now. CEI, the water metering. We're working on pushing out the admin building Monday. It's our goal. That may be pushed back a little bit, but my goal is to get the admin building out next week.
It's not out right now?
No,
Oh, I thought it was out with the, we had a pre-bid meeting date.
no,
Oh,
No.
we had it out.
nope,
Does that mean we've gotten the permit?
no. They have to resubmit the permit as well, so. And we just got rejected for the second time for the utilities building over here for a minor thing that has to be corrected by the engineers, so. We're working through the meter box
Are we
procurement
paying extra for that?
for the resubmittal.
Every time they have to resubmit, do we pay the?
There is a fee associated to resubmittals that we
No,
have.
no, for the engineer.
To fix it immediately.
Do we have to pay the engineer to do it right the way he should have done it the first time?
I've
That's
been working,
argumentative.
I've been working through that with Tetra Tech. Code issue items that should have been addressed as part of design, I have pushed back on. If there are outside issue comments that were provided, then I'm open to working with them on us incurring those costs. So, yes and no, Carol.
Okay.
I can vouch for her.
And then we're working through the meter box procurement RFP. Because of the cost of those, we either have to piggyback or put out an RFP. So trying to wrap that up so we can get that out. And then the AMI metering and infrastructure bid is out on the street. So you are all under a cone of silence on any bid that we have out. So if anybody calls you, direct them to Randy. That's all I got for now.
Any updates on the fountain?
It should be back on today, if not tomorrow. So, there were some warranty issues that had to be addressed. Those were addressed Friday. They sealed the lip because, as we all saw, it kept accruing a lot of green stuff. So the county sent the sub out to seal the lip around it, which should help with that. Had to do a deep clean of the fountain. We had a heck of a time with one vendor. We canceled the contract with that vendor, and we have since switched to a different maintenance vendor that they will be coming out twice a month to maintain it, so it should be back on.
Are we feeding chlorine by any chance into that? Yeah, I was gonna say, we're getting algae in there.
Again, I think there was a lack of maintenance with the first vendor, so we have since rectified that.
My only feedback is regarding the height of the fountain.
Reduce it, that's my plan.
Okay, because it's, I
Overspray.
understand, but the overspray is what causing the algae on the concrete slab on it. So if you wanted that high, then increase of service.
Just so everybody knows, Cecil Pendergrass, prior to them turning it over to the district, had requested that the height of the water spraying up be taller. And as you all know, it caused overspray, and so we're going to reduce it when.
Landscape issues, algae issues.
Yes.
We had gotten an email from a resident in Stony Brook, I think he was the treasurer, that talked about an odor that they've had in Stony Brook a long time. We brought it up at the last meeting. You said you guys were doing something about it. Is it fixed?
The odor control contractor came out yesterday to make the repair. Staff went by today. It did not seem to be repaired. I have since met with that person who sent the email. We're getting the engineer involved because it seems like we're not completely solving the problem, and this vendor with the odor control isn't the most reliable, so we're contemplating switching vendors as well. So we're working on it. They understand that. It takes time. It's been however long Stony Brook's been built issue. It's not going to resolve itself overnight. So, but we are communicating with them directly. Vince is who we had a meeting with. So.
Did they check the detention times to make sure that that's not an issue?
Bill's working on that. The VFD had to be, the variable frequency device had to be replaced, and so that was replaced, but the motor wasn't working this morning when Bill went by, so.
Could you add that to your list of things that you report to us on? Because I don't want it falling through the cracks.
Yeah, it's on Utilities Monthly Report, and I'll make sure it stays there.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else? Future board business, agenda management?
Just one item, if I may. I've had 2 calls with the Attorney General's office yesterday and today because the month went by and they don't have the attorney opinion yet.
Stony Brook?
Yes. So, in fact, the attorney thought it was ready to go out But if you want to check on it, and I called her today, left a voicemail, I will call her again tomorrow. I'll call her every day.
Wait on a legal opinion?
Yes, I will call every day.
One additional thing with Stony Brook, so this board had said they have, for the monument, the maintenance, continued maintenance of the monument at 82 and Gateway Boulevard, this board said, hey, we'll put together the easement document, we'll maintain it, you don't have to make any repairs, but you need to get sketch and legal. Hadn't heard from them in months, put them on a deadline by the end of the month. I did hear from them, 2 days ago, that they are working on getting that sketch and legal by the end of the month, so you will see that easement document come in front of you after they sign it.
I think the future agenda management, instead of having you go through it,
Yeah,
I
I
read
can-
it, so
And
if anything else to add or change or update? No, Ed? No, okay, nothing. That's it. So go ahead and move to supervisor's comment, and I'll start with Carol.
Yeah, I would like, I think there have been too many mistakes this year from Infomark. Not only this thing with Pelican that we just quote-unquote fixed, but I believe there was a second mailing that had to go out to some residents, because I saw them sitting in the audience a couple meetings ago about the letter that the district sends out every year saying this is the high water mark and, you know, all that sort of stuff. There was mistakes there. In my opinion, that's two, and they both deal with taxes. I don't know if, I know we're a small governmental body, but it just seems to me that there have been too many mistakes. And so I would like to suggest that staff come back to us with a recommendation of what a next step we should take. If we should go out for bids, if we should get some assurances from you. I also didn't like the fact that when we finally got the audit, it was like 9 months had gone by. You know, it's kind of hard when you've got committees that are budgeting and they don't know if they have any money left from the year before, which they found out once we finally got the audit. I just think there's too many things falling through the cracks and too many mistakes.
So I just have, are those your comments?
Those are my comments.
I'll have my comments. I'll just do it now. So 2 questions. So regarding the audit, the time, usually that's the time that it takes for anybody to get an audit, like 6 months at least for it. So I don't think that's.
Well, 6 months is a whole lot different than 9.
Yeah,
I don't
so,
think that has anything to do with.
That's not Infomark.
No.
That's not Infomark.
second, regarding going out for bids for other purposes, like if they're not following up the contract, I'm sure we have a termination clause and then we address it that way. If they're not performing up to the standard, then it is I expect a formal conversation with them and setting all the same, no different than we did with Tetra Tech. Sitting with them, make it formal, line up the items, and then, you know, have a meeting of the minds and then moving forward from there. Not opposing to, I am never opposing to going out for bids for any of the vendors, so I'm always in support of that, always have been. So that's just my
I would like,
regarding that.
I would like staff to bring back a recommendation. I think, I would like Laura's input into this also.
Okay. Would you still like to have a formal meeting with, I think a formal meeting with Laura or Chelsea with Infomark is also required regardless if we go out for bids or
I'd
not.
like them to bring back a recommendation.
Okay.
Infomark's contract is up for renewal and will be at your next meeting, and
Oh,
we
okay,
can work
that's-
through, in the
So, yeah.
meantime,
We're gonna have it.
some perhaps checks and balances with Stephen in the meantime to put in that contract.
We've
language.
added a few in already because of some other issues that we ran into, not accounting related, with what they have for services now, so.
We will bring that, it's gonna come back to you at your next meeting.
That was fast, Karen.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it on the agenda management. I didn't see it as part of the mix. Okay,
Anything else?
no.
Doug?
Just a couple quick things. Did Margaret, Chelsea, did Margaret reach out to you? I know they were trying to wrap up some of their budgeting process, and they had some questions around water increases and some other things that might.
She did, and we sent her the rates.
Okay, all right, so that's taken care of. Great. Do we know with modifications that have happened at the elementary school in their parking lot area, if there's any impact to us, our ability to use that as overflow for the leagues?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Can we just have someone confirm that?
Okay. If I confirm it, I'm gonna wanna do an interlocal agreement with them.
Whatever, but it's vital that we have
Yeah.
that for parking. And I don't know if they're still on the system, because we don't get charged for using their parking.
And we don't charge them to use the fields.
Right, that's what I'm saying, just be aware of that.
Yeah.
And if you could have maybe Carrie, just send something out to the leagues as they're getting ready to start back up, encouraging them, use the overflow parking.
I believe I saw some email communications going back and forth with her and the school principal. I will follow up and I will make sure that's in the Public Works monthly report.
Not a big deal. And I did kind of talk to Elle on the break. We had talked last board meeting about the ponds and invasive species and that type of stuff. I mentioned to Elle that maybe she should get with Randy. She's got a nice sheet with all the different invasive fish, and encouraging people, catch those fish, don't put them back in.
A tournament, we should have a tournament on that.
Or just encourage people to, go fish the ponds, and if you catch any of these fish, do not put them back in. And clear the justification for that.
Okay.
And I think that's it for me.
Oh, one thing, I forgot. Stephanie McLean is our newest stormwater environmental specialist. I don't know.
She's probably gone already, explored
Probably
already,
gone.
so. she's gone.
If redhead, if you see her around, she
She's
is
shadowing Elle right now.
shadowing Elle, but she will report to Daniel directly. And again, this is all part of succession planning in the future, and as we take on additional responsibilities and actually put together maintenance programs for our stormwater, catch basins, ponds, etc. So we welcomed her. Tuesday was her first day.
Yes,
She's
we
from-
had she's from the Boston area. We had, I don't know if you remember, we had an intern for a while who was only here like one day a week, and that was a huge help for Elle, and especially like Chelsea said, with the succession planning, having someone here full time to help learn all that would be great for us.
Oh, one more thing. The Funbrella's up.
You having fun underneath her?
If anyone wants to go check out the Funbrella at the pool,
Did you go?
I'm off the road. Logan told me about it.
Yeah.
He said it looks fun.
I
We're
can't-
using it.
I can't go to your pool.
Well, you can sit on the outside. You just can't go in.
Not the fence.
You can come with me. I'll,
She want me to sit there and look
you
at
can come
the.
in. You can be my guest.
Carol, you can pay for a pass.
She'll pass on that. Ed?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just in the last couple of weeks with the meter projects, we're starting to run into some issues of pressure. And I'm very concerned that the guys, we need to maybe have some eyes on these guys doing the work to make sure that rocks and other stuff isn't getting in, because the people's, before we change the meter out and now after we change it out, their pressure drops, something happened. Either they're using a lot of fittings, 90-degree fittings, which they shouldn't be using any 90-degree fittings, or they're allowing dirt and material to get into the line, and it's clogging the lines inside the houses, and the pressure's dropping, and people are saying, what happened? How did this happen? So we need to be a little bit more cautious on that.
Can I just respond to that?
I'm sorry?
Can I just respond to that real quick? Prior to, Rohaley did flush every single meter after they put it back in order. Bill and I did talk about, we did have one complaint of pressure. We put in all new fittings, check valve included, which could definitely contribute. Maybe their old check valve didn't work properly, and that could contribute to the reduction in pressure. But yes, with full deployment, we will have full-time CEI on the project.
Well, if they're taking and doing, once they get it done and they open up the water, I would hope that they would go up to the house when
They
it
do.
goes in, turns the valve on,
Yeah.
such that when you flush it out there and don't jam it into the system.
They do.
Okay,
They did every
okay.
time, yep.
That's issue one. The other issue, take up on what Carol was saying. I learned a lot in the last 30 days on this whole assessment methodology. Not so much the assessment methodology, I think I had it down pretty pat. What I didn't have down pat is how you take the numbers and insert them into the methodology. We have been making a lot of mistakes. And I think a lot of it is because staff was not educated, not trained, not brought up to speed, and not aware of how our system works. I think if staff would have known some of this stuff, what we should have done is not this year, not last year, but 2 years ago, the event that occurred in Pelican of changing these numbers over. That should have been a red whistle, fire, flag, whatever, smoke and all. We should have immediately amended the assessment methodology and got Russ in here, got Stephen in here, and say, hey, we're making some type of a hash out of this. We're throwing all this stuff in here, and it should have never happened. It should have been differentiated out into the components that we know that we're going to have to go to ultimately. How we're going to solve that inside, outside, upside down mess is beyond me. I don't think that mess ever goes away. The only thing that you're going to do is have to come up with a formula, which is what Russ did, and that was in the additional columns that caused the problem with all this, is that you take a percentage, which I believe is what, 14 2/3 or something like that?
88 and 12.
88, 12%. That was applied to the outside people, and what they were paying before was a much greater percentage. And you go to anything that we've got, our assessment methodology book, any of that, that describes that's how it was to be done, it ain't there. In fact, when you go in, and Russ gave me this spreadsheet, it's like this. You put all these in a row and you have to go clear across them to follow the lines. What's worse is some of the formulas are hidden. Good example was we begged for at least 3 weeks. What's the basis of calculating Pelican Preserve's stormwater management? Over in Gateway, it's easy. We got a percentage out. If you're a single family, you're X. If you're a multifamily, you're Y. If you're any one of these 300 commercials, you're A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. We didn't have that at Pelican. We finally found that thing in
It's a hidden column.
in a column that was hidden. And the issue is how can you have staff be checking stuff to see and make sure things like this doesn't happen when they don't even know about it?
Well, there's gonna be a
But I
big,
think we are now up
That
to
whole
speed.
workbook needs to be revamped.
Well,
but I understand
unfortunately, it's all
that.
there's a
be
bigger
changed,
issue
but-
too, because there's intellectual property law that you have. In the event that you leave tomorrow, that could pose a pretty big risk. And you've got 3 input entities. You've got Stephen, you've got Russ,
Russ, and
and
me.
yourself. So is there, I mean, Stephen, I don't know if you know of, is there another alternative to managing through spreadsheet? Is there a system? Is there something we should be investing in?
There is, I think we talked about it. When we start the assessment budget process, the minute we develop the first format, what we call the first version, Russ, staff, and Stephen need to come here, not 18 miles away, wherever. Come here and go through and get the formula set up so that we don't have that. Because it doesn't make any difference. The assessment methodology relative to what we've created and what we'll create is not going to vary. If you're a car or a house, you're going to have so many trips. If you're a single family, you're going to have, or a multifamily, you're going to have so many trips. You're so many impervious acres. All those things, those are fixed. It's when you change the budget and put 200,000 in or 200,000 out, that goes in, and now all of a sudden the numbers just start changing.
Well, I'm not even talking about a spreadsheet. I'm saying, is there a system? Is there a platform? Are they
Not
aware?
one that is flexible enough.
That's,
I
And
think
we can use-
I don't think it can.
We may have to have, we
It's
may
too
have to create
complicated.
Yeah,
something.
I think we're gonna have to establish some SOPs and
Yep.
then have very clear defined roles And Laura's already
I've
established a process and, has added in, double checking certain things. So this is gonna be a learning curve for all of us. We know we need to totally revamp this and we need to make it to where the layman can pick up this and read it.
Well, the thing, we brought it up, what really triggered it was C5. When I look at C5 on the budget, you can't make that math make sense. You can't make it. And what it was not so much the math of the impervious or the math of the number of units. The issue is we weren't taking into consideration the distribution of the administrative costs. We were giving them just as if they were inside. And it was a killer.
You guys,
I mean,
you
it's
guys
about
course corrected that
$200,000.
today, so.
So I think most of that's taken care of, but it does boil down to, when we get the new amendment system, the new assessment methodology, it's still going to be complicated, but I think we'll know how to address some of these things that we had happen this time that should hopefully never happen again.
Like Chelsea said, I've added some more checks and balances into my process now too, to make sure that we're right up front, that we're addressing that before it gets to the end of the process. These will be things we look at the beginning of the process each year.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ed? Okay. I just have one question I wanted to research. I know about 2 weeks ago I mentioned that none of the street lights at the roundabout where they could read high school are working. You put a ticket with the county? Okay. I'm thinking that when we took over the landscaping, remember they asked for us to take over the landscaping and the lights, and we said, no, we're only gonna take over the landscaping? Because I actually went back and looked, they haven't been on for over 4 months.
Full time?
Uh-huh.
I think, no, so
Because I went back on my camera, and one of my cameras of the HOA, it takes the sidewalk. So it's the ones that, it's not the county ones.
It's the school.
It's the school.
I think it's because it's, from what Bill told me.
The transformer?
It's tied to their system, and they didn't have school over the summer, so they didn't.
No, but I went back on my camera thing, and there's only one street light that is at the crosswalk that I can see it from the camera view, and it was 4 months.
Okay.
That
Is
they haven't been on.
it a photo cell issue?
No, it's all of them.
I'll reach out to the school district. We've been having,
It's all of them.
we've been emailing with
I never
with
noticed, because I
parking
don't really-
issues too, so,
Alright.
all right.
That's it, that's all I have. Alright. Go ahead and
Thank you.
adjourn.
Thank you.
Alright.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Oh.
Thanks for driving
Okay.
up.
Get out of here quick. I don't